To some folks, Christmas might not seem like the right time of year to tell ghost stories, but I've got a spooky tale to share with you.
And to understand my story, you first have to understand the relationship between my father and his dog.
You see, my father loved his dog more than anything else in the world, including his own family. Or at least that's the way it appeared to me. Back then, I was an only child growing up in a farmhouse deep in the South Georgia countryside.
A drafty old place with high ceilings, cavernous hallways, and dark hardwood floors that creaked loudly with each footstep.
My father was an ex-Army colonel and a strict disciplinarian.
He had a cold and stiff demeanor, as if some army trainer along the line had squeezed every ounce of emotion out of him.
As the years passed, I grew more and more distant from my father. In fact, sometimes I was downright scared of him, and I paid little attention to any awkward attempts he made to show his affections. But every human being needs an outlet for their emotions, so my father got something that wouldn't talk back or challenge him, quoth him, a dog.
As if by divine intervention, a stray black lab came bounding onto our property one day, wet and starving.
Mac constantly tried to play with me, jumping up on my lap, nudging me with a dirty tennis ball in its mouth, licking my face.
Over the years, Mac never seemed to get the message that I wanted no part of his affection. I even shut the door to my room to keep him out.
About 13 years old, Mac grew sick with cancer.
When my father would reach down to pet him, a joyous recognition would flash in his eye, only to be extinguished by his agony.
We had no choice. My father made the hardest decision of his life and had Mac put to sleep. After it was done, he wept and spent many hours alone.
One day, I walked into my parents' bedroom and noticed a strange wooden box sitting on my father's nightstand. Shortly after Mac's death, my father had had him cremated and now kept his ashes beside the bed. So one night when my parents were away, I grabbed a shovel, stole the box from their bedroom, and ran through the dark into the forest.
I buried that box under a tree and covered it with pine straw. Hysterical with rage, he dragged me out into the forest the next morning and made me dig under every tree for that box.
But I honestly couldn't remember where I had buried it.
Needless to say, our relationship soured even more after that. We rarely spoke to one another.
Christmas seemed like a painful obligation, with a cold chill hanging over us as we sat silently around the festive table. But the bitterness of my childhood wormed its way into my marriage, and before I knew it, we were divorced.
In the following years, my parents passed on, leaving the old family house cold and empty.
I dreaded the Christmas season of 1985, for I knew that for the first time, I would truly be alone.
What I discovered was that the old house was a dark crypt of painful memories. I grabbed a bottle of scotch, made myself a fire in the old stone fireplace in the den, and drank myself to sleep.
Sometime in the middle of the night, I was awakened by an odd thumping noise coming from upstairs.
The thumping sound descended the stairs and moved closer and closer toward the den. Through my drunken haze, I recognized it as the rasp of claws on wood.
After a long pause, he whirled around and ran out the door, barking loudly. Running through the frosty night deep into the woods, the brittle pine needles crackling under my feet.
Now, have you ever had one of those moments when you finally realize you're dreaming?
Mac stopped digging, looked at me, then slowly vanished.
I turned around and my jaw dropped. The old family homestead was on fire.
Shortly thereafter, Fire investigators reasoned that a stray cinder falling out of the fireplace caused the fire. The house was so old and wooden that it burned in no time at all. What was miraculous to them was that I had somehow walked out the door in my sleep when the fire started burning.
I grabbed a shovel and went back to that spot in the woods where I had stood the night before. I dug right where Mac had been digging, and sure enough, I found the box I had buried many years before.
I then bought a plot near the foot of my father's grave and laid Mac to rest, much like he had slept at the foot of his bed when I was young.